Hey listeners, we're nearing the end of our 15th anniversary fundraising campaign, and we need your help to meet our goal. This campaign offers you a chance to win a unique food and music experience in one of the most exciting cities in America. Here's how it works. Donate to HRN and you'll be entered to win dinner for two and 2 tickets to a concert in one of 8 amazing cities: New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Nashville, Las Vegas, Charleston, Ardmore, Pennsylvania, and Asheville. All donations support our work educating food system storytellers. And when you donate, you can choose one of those cities and you'll be entered to win dinner and 2 tickets to a show. So help us reach our goal and enter to win dinner and a show in the city of your choice. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15. Thank you.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. Since 2009, HRN podcasts have been exploring the wide world of food, beverage, and agriculture. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. We do more varieties and flavors of cheese than anywhere else on Earth. By pushing the boundaries of what cheese can and should be, find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
This is Gastronomica, an HRN podcast. I'm your host for today, James Farrer. This series is produced in collaboration with Gastronomica, the Journal for Food Studies. Our spring season continues with conversations with authors from our newest issues. Issue 24.1, available online, features new research, creative nonfiction, and artwork on a range of topics, including authenticities, sustainabilities, and commemorations. My guest this week is Pooja Kalita. The name of her article is Bisak Important Hoy, Trust is Important. Masculinities, Trust, and the Assamese Pithas, available in Gastronomica's Spring 2024 issue. Thank you for joining us, Pooja, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, James. It's my absolute pleasure to be in this podcast.
So, Pooja, can you briefly share with us really where you're based right now, academically and geographically?
Yeah, so academically, I am a research fellow with the project Heritage as Placemaking, which is a collaborative project of 4 institutes, that is South Asian University, New Delhi, Social Science Baha, Nepal, University of Heidelberg, Germany, and SOAS in UK. And I'm affiliated to South Asian University at the moment in New Delhi, but I am from Assam, that which is situated in the northeast of India, and my research interest has mostly been the urban space of Guwahati. However, in this project of Heritage as Placemaking, I'm also looking into heritage spaces based both in India and Nepal.
Right. So your article deals with a particular culinary item called Pithas, and I'm wondering if you could sort of explain to us, especially those folks who are not really familiar with Pithas, what they are, how a little bit about the meaning of them, and especially in Assam, and how they fit into Assamese foodways.
Yeah, sure. So pithas are a popular variety of rice preparation, and broadly pithas are steamed or fried rice cakes or roasted rice flour rolls. They fall within the category of both a sweet and a snack. Most pithas are sweet in taste and can be prepared with a variety of rice along with other ingredients such as coconut, sesame, jaggery, etc. And pithas are regarded as a special preparation during occasions such as the cultural festival of Bihu in Assam. But today also, pithas are not only sold or eaten or consumed only during festivals, but also they are available throughout the year. There are different enterprises beyond what is being prepared at homes. So yeah, they have assumed a very important place in the Assamese culinary foodscape. And yeah, it is. I mean, they have figured prominently in a variety of Assamese recipe books as well. So yeah, it is one of the most important culinary items in the Assamese foodscapes.
Right. So I'm wondering, when you're studying pithas, how did you, since it's such a common thing, in some ways it's something that you would eat every day in Assam. So what for you became a question about it? How did it become something that you wanted to study? And how did you approach this study? And what were the questions that you started out with?
Yeah, sure. What happened? I mean, the thing which really interested me into studying pithas with men and masculinities is there is a strong, because pithas are also regarded as a traditional item in the Assamese foodscape. So it is often related to women preparing it with a lot of love and care. During, in fact, the festival of Bihu, there would be images and visuals in video mediums or advertisements of women preparing it. Historically, many recipe books which have really focused on women have laid out a variety of recipes around pithas. So what really interested me into studying pithas is when I realized that so many men are now involved in pitha preparation and selling in the urban foodscape of Guwahati, which is my field site. So I was intrigued by the question of what is the reason and how do really men enter into this domain of food preparation, which has otherwise been feminized to a large extent. How does it really play out, and how then men preparing and selling it in variety of capacities? I mean, what does appeal to people when they buy pithas, which have been traditionally related to women preparing it?
Right. Well, that's very fascinating. And one of the issues, of course, is that this is a gendered food item. Like many traditional items, as you just said, it's associated with women's work. And now we have men making this and selling it. And so one of the topics that you bring up in your writing in the article is the one of trust. And it's in the title. So I'm wondering if you could tell us, why do you think trust is very important for understanding pithas? And how does this concept of trust work in this particular type of food market where pithas are sold?
Yeah, right. When I started off, with this field work, which is primarily largely on the Assamese foodscape. So pithas, when I entered into places, whether it be street stalls or restaurants, with men selling and preparing it, one of the recurrent theme that came about was that when they would say, people buy it from us because they trust us. Bisak is there. So I got intrigued into the question of what is this trust that people, especially men, are talking about. So I was really intrigued into that. And then when I discovered it, and when I went around doing my field work, what came about was that, of course, there have been theories in economic sociology, anthropology, like George Schimmel has talked about trust, the element of trust in economic systems, and scholars like Luhmann states that trust reduces complexity in society. However, in my research, it also came about that trust many a times is a multifaceted category, which is being translated into care, reputation, reliability, and often all of these are also, intertwined into the regional politics of Assam, class markers, caste hierarchy, and religious indicators, along with the gendered notions of food preparation, pitha preparation, and trust that comes about.
Right. So in some sense, for women making pithas in the domestic environment, trust is not an issue because this is seen as something women naturally do. But when men are selling pithas in the marketplace, it becomes a problem of both of gender and in a sense of not knowing sort of who's making this, and sort of trust becomes then an issue. Is that the right interpretation?
That's right. But in addition to that, I would also like to point out that, of course, the relationship between women and preparation of traditional sweet and snacks like pithas have been there. But also in the urban space of Guwahati, at least the time when I was doing my field, it was also found that trust is always not bestowed on all kinds of women. For example, there'd be certain sections of Muslim population or the indigenous groups in certain ways, and it's really related to caste notions of hygiene, cleanliness, class factors, religious factors. So when I also talk about trust and the trust of women being bestowed on while making food, it slightly also gets a little complicated if we look deeper into who are the women, for example, who are shown in the visuals, and who are the women who are allowed to make pithas. What are the notions of cleanliness and hygiene that comes about while making pitha preparation and sale. So this is also something that needs to be taken into account when we also talk about women's relationship with traditional sweets and snacks.
Right. So that's a very interesting point that your article makes, that trust is not only gendered, but it's also ethnicized in that sense, and that it seems to be embodied most clearly by I suppose, to interpret what you're saying, Assamese Hindu women who are able then to kind of represent this this culture. How do men who sell pithas gain trust? I mean, what do they do to make it seem normal and trustworthy that they are men out selling pithas?
Yeah, so I can give you, right now I can give you two examples of it. First, one of these persons whom I refer to in my article is Anil Deka. He comes to the city of Guwahati to sell pithas during times of festivals or when there is a huge exhibition in the city to sell pithas, and he gets it like prepared from home, and these are ready-made, and he brings it to the city and he sells it here. So then the question that I asked these, and he seems to be pretty popular and his sale is good. So the question that I asked both him and his customers is that what is it that, makes his pithas reliable to be consumed and bought, given the fact that nobody, like especially his customers, haven't seen how they are prepared at his home. So what Anil Deka told me that he again brought in the correlation of women and food preparation. He said it is made by the women in my family, my mother, sister, my wife, and also what really mattered to the customers buying pithas from him is that he is a Hindu. He has a Hindu surname, and which made him what one of the customers said, he's among us. So somehow, like his Hindu identity, and on his part, the way he still correlates women of his family with food preparation, especially something related to what is quote unquote seen as very Assamese, makes it very popular among his customers, as well as another person who sells pithas regularly on the streets. People can see how he's making it and preparing it, but also even he, being a Hindu, does really impact the way people perceive his food. Also, in terms when we talk about when people buy it from some special restaurants, or in terms of packets of pithas from some with a brand name, people often relate it to hygiene concerns, authenticity concerns, which are definitely based on class markers, because also about the thing about then the pricing comes in and the brand name comes in, which are related to class.
Right. So I wanted to just break down a couple of the points you're making. So one of the people you're talking about, Anil Deka, he makes pithas that are he sells pithas that are made by the women in his family. In that sense, he's able to gain trust through this, in a sense, saying he represents he's a middleman between these women and the customer. But the really interesting case was this second one, Harishda, who actually makes his own pithas. And I think in the article you talk about the type of gendered work he does to gain the trust of his customers. In a sense, a new type of masculinity. And I was wondering if you could sort of zero in on this type of masculine performance that you're seeing, a sort of, a reinvented type of masculinity in his case in particular.
Yeah, sure. So with Harish, people also, he as he narrated to me, he came into the domain of pitha preparation, not because out of any penchant love of cultural preservation, but because he was in a situation where he needed to earn for his family. And it seemed that pitha preparation and sale was a viable option for him. However, he believing still that it is something that related to women, and also the thing. However, his customers also see him as a caring person who serves his pithas, prepares it with care, and serve them, which was a different kind of which was kind of understanding masculinity in a new way for me. In addition to Harish, I also when going back to Anil Deka, they would talk about doing the hard, or the heavy aspects of preparation of pithas, like grinding the rice or the flour. So, whereas there are certain notions that are still very much intact with gender notions of food preparation and serving, there are other notions that are coming in which are like kind of pointing out towards new ideas of understanding masculinities. For example, the men who are involved in these companies and these restaurants selling pithas, they also talk about the idea of care for women who might not have time to make pithas, but might want to prepare and serve it to their family to preserve Assamese culture, and also the men who really think about Assamese culture in a way where they think that coming up with ready-made varieties of pithas would really help also the women to preserve the culture in the broader sense. Yeah, I mean, so in a way that, here in the what one of the crucial aspects is masculinity is not seen as something that is trying to dominate to women in certain very explicit, aggressive manner, but in a way that they are also showing care and trying to help women out there to preserve Assamese culture in the longer run, of course, with gendered connotations intact.
Right. So that's fascinating. Right now, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheese-making culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheese-making craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
And we're back. This is Gastronomica on HRN. I'm James Farrer talking with Pooja Kalita about Bishak Important Hoy. Trust is important. Masculinity's Trust and the Assamese Pithas, available in Gastronomica's Spring 2024 issue. So, Kalita, we were talking about trust in the marketplace. And earlier on, you actually mentioned this, but I wanted to come back to the question of class as well. So we have these men working in the market, and we also, though, have a different type of place where pizzas are sold, and that is a type of a restaurant, really. And that seems to be the pizzas that are sold there are more expensive, really. And one thing is, could you give us an idea of what the difference in cost would be between pizzas that are sold on a street market? And I'm assuming you're talking about kind of a type of open air market versus a restaurant. And maybe you could describe both types of places.
Yeah. So the thing is, of course, not everyone wants to would want to have pizzas from a street stall, in the sense that the way notions of hygiene and cleanliness also plays a crucial part. However, it is also, it is true, and somehow it is. It was very explicit in the way these men who are selling pizzas are also not only serving different stratas of societies who might not be able, and specifically the stratas of society who might not be able to pay a high price to have a pita from a place which is like selling very priced pitas, but what they're also doing is, in a way, they're preserving their notions of Assamese-ness in their own way of selling pitas, one, and second, trying to feed quite a variety of people who come to their places. For example, these are regular especially in case of people like Harish, one pita might cost 5 or 10 rupees, but whereas if it's like in a restaurant space, one of the restaurant space I mentioned was Jolpan, then it might be 20 rupees per pita, or a packet might cost, it might be 10 pitas in a packet, might cost 200 rupees, so it might just be double the price, or even even more. The only difference would be that, they would be packed in a nicer way, and people would come up with, the reason that people would prefer to buy such pithas because, they are packed in a nice way, and they are sold under this brand name, or, since it's not on the street, it's not dirty, or, they don't catch any dust. So there is this whole notion of brand names and the way people see it in terms of pricing, and which, of course, only a certain section of population can afford certain kind of pricing. And somehow there is a huge correlation between how people see pricing and quality.
Right. So I think that this type of distinction between, restaurant food and street food is a question of class. The other social distinction that you pay a lot of attention to, and I think in very insightful ways in the article, relates to caste and religion. And we've already talked a bit about this, so that pithas are seen as a Hindu food and made by stereotypically by Hindu women, and in this case, Hindu men. So does that mean that Muslim people, the Muslim minorities who live in, and indigenous minorities who live in Assam, are excluded from this culture entirely? Or are they sort of marginalized from it? Do they not eat pithas, or that they are not allowed to make the pithas that Hindu people eat? And so how does that play itself out right now in Assam?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that they are regarded as Hindu food as broadly as such. These are, pithas have been a traditional item, a cultural food item in the Assamese food, which is like really diverse. The question of Assamese, who is an Assamese, has been really diverse and have various subgroups, including Muslims in it. However, when we think about now, and of course, eating and preparing pithas have been very common throughout history and even now. However, when we think about the authenticity of Assamese-ness or authentic pithas, the question of hygiene and cleanliness often comes about, and for example, a domestic help, for example, a large population of part-time helps in the city of Guwahati are Muslim women, especially Mia women. And Mias comprises of a group of people who are perceived as migrants from East Bengal, and they are derogatorily referred to as Mias. But however, they form a huge part of the labor force in Assam, and but even in spite of the fact that a lot of these Mia women form a huge part of the labor force, being part-time helps in a lot of Assamese households, even a lot of Assamese upper caste households, it is somehow seen as they are not good enough or clean enough, or they might not have the authentic knowledge of preparing the way a certain privileged section of Assamese society would want to see pithas being made or eaten. So this really. The religion and ideas of caste notion of hygiene and cleanliness really takes a huge part in it. And of course, the imagery and the visuals that one can see of, pitha preparation, the ideal imagery, be it in terms of advertisements, print advertisements or video advertisement. It is only a certain kind of Assamese women who mostly would be a Hindu, would be wearing certain kind of, attire that would be seen as more authentic and appropriate the way we relate to pithas in the Assamese foodscape.
Right. So I think this article really shows the ways in which gender and religion, caste, ethnicity, and also social class really are a part of an important everyday food item in Assam. And I think that's the strength of the article. And I think everyone who who's interested in these topics should then dive into the article itself in Gastronomica. So in concluding our discussion today, Pooja, I'm wondering if you could tell us where you're thinking about taking your research next, and what would you see as sort of questions you still have to ask about this topic, or what would be your next topic?
I too have I have two broader interests right now. One, of course, I am working on as a research fellow in the project. So I'll just elaborate a bit on those two one by one. One is, of course, as part of this Heritage as Placemaking project. I'm right now interested into the built environment that is being created through food, that is restaurants or cafes in heritage locations such as Bodh Gaya or Lumbini, and then what is the kind of understanding we are having of aspects such as affordability, accessibility, sustainability around food that is coming out of these spaces of this built environment, crucially linked to heritage tourism, because they are also located in places which have different kinds of different varieties of inequalities at various levels that play out every day. So that is one. And second is, to go back to my previous field site, Guwahati. I'm really interested in the understanding Chinese food in contemporary urban space of Guwahati. What role has it really played? Because from my experience, it has played a huge role. Having chow mein or Chinese, fried rice. Of course, there is a version of, quote unquote, Indian Chinese. So how really they have really played a part in Assamese households, and then how does it really interact with our notions of Assamese identity and nationalism? So these are the two interests I have right now, and I hope to take it forward soon.
Right. Well, both of those sound like really fascinating projects to me. And I hope to see some of those results in Gastronomica in the future. So I'd like to close up our podcast today. And Pooja, thank you for joining us. It's been a really interesting conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, James. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
So listeners will be able to read the full article in Gastronomica, the Journal of Food Studies, issue 24.1. For more details, visit gastronomica.org. Join us next week when we speak to Hallam Stevens about lab-grown protein and the development of an inedible mammoth meatball. And subscribe to the Gastronomica podcast feed on your favorite platform to stay updated on our newest episodes this season.
This show is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.